Hey, what's going on, guys? Brian from Zombie Guitar here. This is a follow-up of my lesson on the 5 pentatonic positions, okay? So essentially what we're going to do here is we're going to basically just look at some concepts or, some mindsets or some things to think about as you go to attempt to improvise using the 5 pentatonic positions, okay? So let's go ahead and get right into it. Okay, so the first thing that you want to understand here is that the pentatonic scale is only 5 notes, all right? So what I'm giving you here is a scalar framework. So for those of you that have purchased my lead guitar improv course, you know that what I give you is scalar frameworks. Different scenarios, different chord progressions call for different scalar frameworks, okay? This is no different. This is just a scalar framework. What I mean by a scalar framework is it's just a set of notes, usually between 5 and 7 notes, and those 5 to 7 notes can be found all over the entire fretboard. All right, so the pentatonic scale is just 5 notes. We're looking at the key of A minor / C major, same thing, same notes. Okay, those 5 notes can be found all over the neck of the guitar. So the A minor pentatonic scale contains the notes A, C, D, E, and G. And then you're back at A again. And then you continue moving through those 5 notes, A, C, D, E, and G. Back to A again. Okay, so right there you have a scalar framework in just one position. Okay, but those same 5 notes can be found all over the entire neck of the guitar, and that's where the 5 pentatonic positions come from. Okay, so A, C, D, E, and G can be found all up and down the neck of the guitar in all kinds of different patterns, 5 different patterns specifically, and no matter what, as long as you're sticking within those 5 pentatonic positions or those 5 different patterns and you're playing only those notes, you're only going to be playing either A, C, D, E, or G, okay? You're not going to be playing any other notes other than those 5 notes. The same thing applies to if you're looking at the C major pentatonic, okay? A minor, C major, it's the same thing, same 5 notes. They're relative to one another, okay? If you want to understand more about the concept of the relative major-minor concept, I put a link to that below. So the C major pentatonic scale contains the notes C, D, E, G, A, and then back at C, okay? Still the same 5 notes. Okay, so whether you're looking at this from the perspective of A minor or C major, and you're spanning this across the entire neck of the fretboard, utilizing all 5 pentatonic positions, you're only using 5 notes. So this particular scalar framework contains 5 and only 5 notes. All right? And this framework will work over anything in the key of A minor or the key of C major. Okay? So if you have a chord progression and all of the chords are part of the key of A minor or part of the key of C major, which again are the same key because they're relative to one another, and there's no out-of-key chords in there, all of the notes in this particular scalar framework are going to work, okay? So what notes do you hit? The answer is any of them. Any of the notes will work. Some notes will sound better than others over certain chords, but for the most part, any note will work over any of the chords within the progression, so long as you are strictly in the key of either A minor or C major, okay? So that's the first thing to understand. Okay, and the second thing that you want to be aware of is you want to be aware of where the scale root is at all times, okay? So if the chord progression is in the key of A minor, the scale root would be A, the note A, okay? If the chord progression happens to be in the key of C major, then the scale root would be the note C, okay? So what you want to try and do is whatever licks or phrases you come up with, you can just make up your own licks, make up your own phrases, but you want to time it such that you land on the note A as the A minor chord hits, okay? So say we have a chord progression that sounds something like this. So as the A is landing, as the A chord occurs, you want to time it such that you hit the note A at the same time, okay? So the other chords you can kind of just noodle around in the, within the scalar framework, but time it such that you hit the note A as the A occurs. So stuff like that. So basically, I was hearing where the A chord was landing, and I was trying to time my phrases such that I was landing on the root notes A. Okay, so the coloring scheme that I always use is the minor root is always going to be a white note, and the major root is always going to be a red note. Okay, so the white notes are all the notes A. Okay, so I was doing things like. Okay, so you have an A here. Okay, I also have an A here. So just being aware of where those root notes are, it's going to take a little bit of practice, okay, but time your phrases out such that you're going to land on the root notes as that particular chord is occurring, okay, so. Alright, so I try not to give you exact, licks that you can just copy exactly as I'm doing them, okay? There's a million of those all over YouTube and stuff. What I'm trying to give you is just concepts, so you can take these concepts and apply them to the scalar frameworks and then kind of make up your own licks and phrases, alright? So I'm just sliding through the different, see how I'm always landing on that A, or here's an A here. Okay, it's the white dot. So you have these diagrams, you can just follow the fretboard diagrams and just play around, make up your own licks and phrases, play to a backing track, or even play to a metronome. I prefer to play, to both backing track and a metronome at the same time, and just work on landing on the notes, the scale root, okay? So always keep that in mind. And you can always bend to the note A as well, of course, if you're in the key of A minor, okay? So if you know that an A is here, up here on the 17th fret of the high E string, you might end your phrase coming to the 15th fret and bending. Okay, so that works just as well, okay? You're still ending on the note, the scale root, but you're just bending to it instead of just landing on it, or instead of hammering on it or sliding to, okay? Alright, or whatever. So that's the one thing to keep in mind. Okay, so the next thing to keep in mind is the red dots, which are the notes C, which would be the major root if you're looking at this from the perspective of C major. The red dots are the third of the minor root, okay? So if we're in the key of A minor, the root would be A, okay? And then the third of A, the minor third of A, would be the note C. So the minor third is always going to sound good as well. Just like the root is always going to sound good, the minor third is always going to sound good over the A minor chord as well, because it's part of the A minor chord. Okay, so when you're doing these phrases, in order to make things more interesting, you don't always have to land on the note A. You can time your phrases such that you land on the note C, okay? Because the A minor chord contains the notes A, C, and E. So A is your root, and C is your minor third, which is part of that chord A minor. Okay, so as you're doing these phrases, be aware of that as well. Okay, so you can either land on the note A or land on the note C. Okay, so I was basically doing the same type of thing there. I was timing my phrases such that as that A minor chord was occurring, instead of landing on the note A, I was landing on the note C. Okay, so the note C is both the scale root if you were in the key of C major, but it's also the third of the A minor chord. Okay, so right now we're looking at minor progressions. Okay, we're looking at something that's in the key of A minor. Therefore, your scale root is A, okay, but the third of the A minor chord is the note C, so that also works over that particular chord. All right, so I have lots of chord tone lessons, so I don't want to get too far or too deep into chord tone stuff here. I want to keep this more scalar type thinking, okay? So over all of the chords in the progression, assuming you're in the key of A minor, over all the other chords, don't worry about chord tones for now. Just play any notes. Any of the notes within the A minor pentatonic scale or framework are going to work over any of the chords. But as that A minor chord is occurring, that would be the chord that you would want to target either the note A or the note C within these pentatonic patterns. Okay, so now if you are soloing over a chord progression that is in a major key, so we're going to stick with the key of C major. Okay, so we're in a major key now. So again, when that C chord occurs, you want to try and land on the note C. Okay, time your phrases such that you land on the note C. Over the other chords in the progression, don't worry about the chord tones and all that stuff. Just play any of the notes within this pentatonic scale or framework over all the other chords and everything's going to sound fine. But when the C chord occurs, attempt to land on the C. But what you don't want to do, okay, you want to really avoid landing on the A. When you're in a major key and you're using the pentatonic scale as your scale or framework, the note C over the C chord is always going to sound good, but the note A over the C chord is not going to usually sound good, okay? It would sound good as a temporary passing note, okay, but as a note that you would want to land on and hold, it's not really going to sound good, okay? So when you're in the minor key, both the A and the C scale roots would sound good. But when you're in a major key, you want to avoid the minor scale root and stick to just the note C, okay? So I hope I'm not confusing you with that, okay? Because the C chord, the C major chord, contains the notes C, E, and G, C being the root of that particular chord, as well as the scale root for the major pentatonic scale, but A is not part of the C major chord, okay? And therefore, you don't want to land on the note A as the C major chord is occurring. So that's a common thing. A common thing that people do is they'll be soloing and they're used to playing in minor keys. They're used to playing, the pentatonic minor scale, which of course shares the same patterns and the same notes as the major pentatonic scale. Okay, it's the same pattern, same notes, but because they're used to playing in minor keys, okay, they're used to landing on the minor root. Okay, so they're used to soloing in A minor, therefore they're used to landing on the note A, as that A minor chord is occurring. But then when they go to play in a major key, they wonder why it's not sounding good anymore. Why, they go to land on that note A over the C chord, which would be the 1 chord, and that's the reason why, because the note A is not part of the C major triad, okay? It's not, so that's just something to keep in mind. But the C note is always going to sound good. Okay, so again, all that I was doing there was I'm simply just making up licks and phrases within this scalar framework, and I'm timing it so that I land on the note C as the C chord is occurring, okay? So the scalar framework remains the same. I'm just utilizing the 5 pentatonic positions, okay? But the only chord within the rhythm that I'm really focusing on is just the C chord. And as that C chord lands on the beat, I'm timing it so that I land on the note C, okay? And the note C in this particular diagram that you're looking at is the red dot, okay? So the red dot in all of my diagrams always indicates the major root, and the white dot always indicates the minor root. So, just to summarize, if you're in a minor key, okay, you can utilize the entire pentatonic, all the pentatonic positions, and you can land on either the minor root or the major root and over that particular chord, and it's going to sound good. It's always going to sound good. But if you're in a major key and you want to land on the major root but not the minor root, okay? Because the major root will sound good, but the minor root will not sound good when you're in a major key and you land on that one particular note, okay? So I'm trying to not be too confusing, because I know there's a lot of beginners out there watching this stuff, but I have tons of lessons that go over all of this major root, minor root, chord tone, scalar framework stuff. I have tons of lessons, so the more these lessons that you check out, the more this stuff is going to start making sense to you, okay? So let me get into some other ideas on how you might go about creating licks and phrases within these patterns. Okay, so I understand that, if you are new to, learning the guitar or learning theory on the guitar, something such as, the 5 pentatonic positions spanned over the entire neck of the guitar may look intimidating to you, all right? Now, you don't have to memorize it all at once. You could take things one position at a time if you'd like, and then maybe start expanding it to 2 positions at a time, and then maybe expand to 3 positions, and then so on and so forth. And that's basically the approach that I take in my improv course. But something else to do is simply just take a little piece, okay? And when I mean a piece, I mean just like a 2 to 3 fret area, and maybe like 2 to 3 strings, and just kind of play around within that little area. Of course, you want to be aware of where the minor root and the major roots are within that little area, but just kind of improvise using a very little piece. So one of my favorite, I'm not going to say one of my favorites, but one of the little pieces that I like to use is right here, okay? So we're in the key of A minor or C major, it doesn't matter. You have your minor root here, and then you have your major root here, okay? But I just, right here. Okay, right here in this little area, just, that's a little piece. Just kind of improvise using that. So let's hear how that would sound. Okay, so I'm just sticking with that little piece, okay? That's what I mean by a piece, just a little 2 to 3 fret area, and I'm only using 3 strings, okay? So this little piece, and then just find those little pieces all over the place, okay? Anywhere within the 5 pentatonic positions, Here's another one that I like to use, okay? So right here, this little piece. Okay, so right here I'm spanning a little 4 fret area, but I'm only using 2 strings. I'm using the G and the B string, okay? So you could do something like. Okay, something like that. Or you could maybe take a little piece up here. Okay, so again, I'm spanning three frets using just the high E and the B strings. Okay, so this little piece. Take these little pieces and then you can combine them together, okay? So you can make up your licks and phrases, using more of the stuff kind of landing on the roots like we were talking about in the previous sections of this lesson. And then you can maybe go ahead and then take a little piece and then just kind of jam out on that. Or you can maybe take one little piece and jam out in that little area and then maybe move up to another little area and then jam out there, I'm just trying to give you ideas, concepts, so you can make up your own licks and phrases utilizing the pentatonic scale. Okay, see what I'm doing here? So, this little piece here, this little piece here, this little piece down here. I'm just trying to, maybe jump from one piece, then jump to another piece, then jump to another piece, all right? So that's another way that you can go about utilizing these pentatonic positions. And of course, be aware of where your roots are located within these pieces. Okay, and the last thing that I want to give you is use these 5 pentatonic positions to essentially span your playing from a 4 fret range, or just a 4 or 5 fret range, to maybe like a 7 or 8 or even more fret range. Okay, and what I mean by that is you can essentially play the same exact notes, but instead of just playing it within 4 frets and then just moving through one position, you can play the exact same lick or phrase, but you can span it in this direction. So let me show you what I mean. So instead of playing this, which just utilizes 4 frets, okay, you could also do something like, okay, see how it was the exact same thing? So you have this, Or you have. Okay, you see how I just essentially took that and I spanned it to span that many frets instead of just that many frets. So you're playing the same notes, but now you have slides and stuff involved, and it looks cool, and you know, you can also use that to move from one position to the next and then kind of improvise within a little piece in your new position that you find yourself ending up on. So, you know, it just opens up your playing a lot more than if you were to just stick into one position, okay? So, I mean, I think it's pretty self-explanatory what's going on here, all right? Now, remember I said the pentatonic scale is just 5 notes. So, when you're playing just this one position, you're just playing 5 notes. You're playing it across 2 octaves, okay? But you're still just playing 5 notes, okay? We're in the key of A minor. The notes are still just A, C, D, E, and G, okay? But you can either play it like that, or you can span it across like this. And that was just one example. You could do it a million different ways. You could maybe start on the high E string and then come down to the D string, and then maybe then start sliding to another position, such like this. Or maybe you could start your slide on the G string, so you can go. Okay, I just played the same exact thing, but I played it a few different ways, all right? Again, this is all going to come with practice. You're going to just have to get comfortable with these 5 positions and just practice them over and over and over. But I just want to give you some stuff to think about, some concepts, and things you can do with this, all right? So I think that's enough for today. This was a pretty long lesson. I just wanted to give you some ways to maybe approach the 5 pentatonic positions, all right? I know some people wanted some more practical applications of what to do with the pentatonic positions, as opposed to just throwing out a scalar framework and saying, okay, there's a scalar framework, go improvise. So these are just some things to think about on how you might want to go about approaching your improvisation using these 5 pentatonic positions, all right? So that's going to be it for today. If you have any questions, requests, comments, whatever, hit me up. Thanks for watching.